Hey, what's up guys? So today we are going to make a simple enemy script. As you can see here, the enemy wanders around randomly, and then when we approach it in the actual red collision, the enemy starts to follow us until it starts to lose sight of us. So as you can see here, the enemy is not following us anymore. If we change direction, for instance, it goes to the last position where we were at. And now if we were to enter it again, as you can see here, now it comes back to us and starts following us around. So yeah, so let's try and make this, and it's quite simple actually. So let's go to the scene setup. So here is the scene setup. As you can see here, I have a basic player and the enemy, both of which have a NavMesh agent as well as a rigid body component. And then for the actual ground surface, we have a NavMesh surface that I click bake, and then it bakes the whole thing. As for the player, I also have the player manager, which contains a reference to the actual player agent, the NavMesh agent, as well as a layer for the ground. This layer you can see is here, layer ground. I also added one which is the player one, which is assigned to the player. And as for the enemy, it also has the enemy manager. Again, it has a reference for the actual enemy NavMesh itself, an empty reference for the target. This will be assigned dynamically at runtime, so you want it to stay empty default, as well as a radius for the wander range. This indicates how far off can the AI agent wander around when there is no target, as well as a detection radius. This indicates how far off can the enemy see the player. So if we had it here, then it will see us, but we can decrease it if we want. So let's return them back to where it were, like so, and perhaps let's have it as 50. And then now we also have a player layer mask, which refers to which layer the player is currently on. So this is everything for the actual scene setup. Now let's go over to the coding side of things. So here is the player manager script. As you can see, we've got quite a simple setup here. All we are doing is on update, you're detecting if we are clicking the mouse button 0, which is the left click usually. And if we are, then we are converting the position at which we clicked to array, and then just converting this to a position in world space using the physics.raycast. And then we are setting the agent to that position, and if we actually click something that was not the ground, we do nothing actually, we just debug it out. So that's basically it as to how we are controlling the player. But of course you could have a way different setup. For instance, if you are doing a first-person shooter or a first-person game, then you'd have WASD or the arrow keys to actually move around the character, but the logic would still apply. And then here is the actual enemy manager. Again, void on update. We use physics.overlap sphere. We give it the current position of the enemy AI, the radius, as well as the player layer mask. What this basically does is basically it draws a sphere around the player or around the position that you feed it with the radius, and then it finds every collider that's within the reach, but the colliders also have to have the layer mask assigned. So in our case, we would draw a layer of, let's say, 13 radius from the current position of the enemy, and then if the player is inside of this range, it will actually return it. And here this is very basic, so we are just catching whichever the first element is in the collision array, and then we are just assigning this as the target. And in case the array is less or equal to 0, we are just deassigning the target, putting it as null. And then here we have vector free position, which basically checks if the target is null. If it is null, we are getting a random position inside the sphere that we have. So as you can see here, we take the transform the position, we plus it using the random that inside unit sphere, and then we multiply this by the radius of the sphere. And if target was not equal to null, then we just give the target position, and then here we set the actual agent destination. So we have two options here. Either if target is not equal to default, then it has to update continuously. So we just continuously feed in the position so that it keeps up to date. And if target was default, then we check whether or not the agent has reached the destination. And if it did, then we'll just provide in the new position. This you could have made it another way, perhaps. But for the sake of simplicity, this is how we are going to do it today. And yeah, so that's basically it for the coding side of things. And if you did everything well, then you should see that whenever the player comes into contact with the red sphere, the enemy starts to chase him around. And if we were to exit the sphere out, as you can see here, if we were to exit it, the enemy will stop to chase the player around. And I hope you guys found it useful. If you did enjoy it, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you have not already, and yeah, I'll see you guys next one. Bye.